I am humbled by the opportunity to introduce our speaker, First Lady Michelle Obama. The First Lady is an attorney and a graduate of Princeton and Harvard universities. She is a loyal supporter of her husband, President Barack Obama. He has said that his wife is the real rock star. She has efficiently balanced a career and motherhood. She is an advocate and an example of good health and is leading the fight against childhood obesity, a major malady of today's society. She is an exemplary role model and believes that it's important for young people to see that people who look like them could achieve their dreams. She is quoted as saying, "If you see that I can do it, and I'm just like you, then you can do it too." If that means talking to 500 kids in a room or going to speak at a college, she says, let's do it. President Obama said, "Michelle has been my most important supporter from the beginning, and I simply could not do it without her. And she will be one of the finest first ladies we have ever had." A great wife, a dedicated daughter, an outstanding mother of two lovely daughters, Malia and Sasha, of whom she says being a good mother is all about consistency and love. Please rise and welcome one who has made a difference. One who has made a difference, lifted our spirits, elevated our aspirations, and motivated us to greater achievements. First Lady Michelle Obama.
Thank you all. Thanks so much. Please, please be seated. Thank you. Just let me tell you, I am so thrilled and so honored to be here to celebrate the extraordinary young men and women of the class of 2010. Let me start by thanking Chancellor Davis for that very kind introduction and for your continuing the family tradition of inspired leadership at this great university. I also want to recognize a few other people. Governor Mike Beebe, his wonderful wife, my friend Ginger Beebe, the First Lady here. Senators Blanche Lincoln and Mark Pryor. Representative Mike Ross, Attorney General Dustin McDaniel, and Mayor Carl Reedus, our mayor right here. I also want to thank Dr. Johnson, Vice Chairman of the University of Arkansas Board of Trustees, to all the members of the Board of Trustees, and B. Allen Sugg, the President of the University of Arkansas Systems. Let's give them all a round of applause. And graduates, let's all take a moment to thank the unsung heroes that are here today, and those are your families. These are the folks who pushed you and believed in you, the folks who answered all those late-night phone calls even when you would just call and ask for money. The folks whose love has sustained you every single day, because the truth is today is their day too. So let's give them another round of applause. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers here. And finally, to you all, the stars of today's show, the class of 2010, congratulations, you all. We are so very proud of you. Y'all look so good. You have worked so hard, invested so much of yourselves during your time here. Your teachers have become mentors, your classes have become passions and career ambitions, and your classmates have become lifelong friends. From the day you arrived as freshmen, you have taken all this school has to offer and you made it your own. And in doing so, you've become part of a very proud tradition, one that began 135 years ago, just a decade past slavery, on that September day when the Branch Normal College first opened its doors. See, things were very different back then, right? There were no lecture halls or dorm rooms, no athletic facilities or libraries. Understand, the first campus was a little more than a rundown frame house in desperate need of repairs. And the first class consisted of just 7 students, some of whom could barely read at the first grade level. And life was full of uncertainty for those students, because there was no clear path to success, no guarantee of opportunity when they graduated, but still, with hope in their hearts and a faith in their God-given potential, they came here anyway. They came to do the only thing they could, and that was to learn. So let's just imagine how those 7 students would feel if they could see all of you here today. If they could see how their tiny schoolhouse has become the flagship of the Delta, a great university with a network of alumni across this country. Imagine their pride in seeing all this institution has accomplished. The Vesper Choir performing at the Vatican. The ROTC producing a U.S. Army general. The Golden Lions making it to the NCAA tournament. Now, you know we're jealous about that. And generations of doctors and lawyers, educators, and others who have gone on to improve the lives of millions. And do you think they could have ever dreamed that their school band would have been chosen to march at the inaugural parade of a United States president? And that president would be an African-American man named Barack Obama? So graduates, when you think about how far you've come and how far this university has come, it just once again reminds you that God is good. And today, we celebrate not just your achievements, but the achievements of all those who came before you, those who poured everything they had into building the school and giving you opportunities they never, ever could have imagined for themselves. But even today, with all the progress that's been made and all that you've achieved, I know that for so many of you, this journey has not been easy. Many of you probably grew up like me, in neighborhoods where few had the chance to go to college, where being teased for wanting academic success was a fact of life, where well-meaning but misguided folks questioned whether a girl with a background like mine could succeed at a school like Princeton. See, but like me, you knew you wanted something more, right? Just like those first 7 students at this school, something inside of you drove you to set your sights higher. It was that internal drive that kept you focused, kept you out of trouble, and earned you admission to this great university. And I'm sure that all of you remember the joy you felt when you opened those acceptance letters. But I'm sure that some of you also remember the initial shock you experienced when you first arrived on campus and realized the expectations were maybe a little higher and the work just a little harder than anticipated. But that didn't stop you. Instead, you dug deep, you stepped up your game, and ultimately earned yourself that diploma. But now, after all you've done to get this far, after all the achievements and struggles, a new set of challenges awaits. Suddenly you're facing a future of debt in the form of tens of thousands of dollars of student loans, and you gotta find a job that'll start paying bills before the bill collectors come calling. Let me tell you, I know the feeling, because it wasn't that long ago that my husband and I were still paying off our student loans. And it can start to feel like each time you overcome one obstacle and achieve something big, there's another obstacle standing right there to take its place. It's like the bar is set, and then you work as hard as you can to reach that bar, and just when you think you finally reached it, the bar moves higher and further out of reach. And I know that can be frustrating, particularly for young people like you who've been raised in a popular culture that doesn't always value hard work and commitment, a culture that instead glorifies easy answers and instant gratification, fast food, instant messaging, easy credit. Your generation has come of age in a culture that elevates celebrities as these fleeting reality fame rather than the hard labors of lasting success. It's a culture that elevates today's celebrity gossip over the serious issues that will shape our future for decades to come. It's a culture that tells us that our lives should be easy, that suffering and struggle should be avoided at all costs, and that we should be able to have everything we want without a whole lot of work. But we know that life really doesn't work that way. See, because despite all those promises of easy money and fast profits, how many businesses do you really know that succeed without the hard work and serious investments of producing a quality product? And despite all those expectations of instant progress and overnight change, how many real leaders do you know that have made lasting contributions without major trials and setbacks along the way? See, it took decades of struggle to end slavery, for women to earn the right to vote, for us to free ourselves from the scourge of segregation. And we all remember what happened to our economy when we succumbed to the lure of easy credit and too good to be true mortgages and assurances that it's just fine to spend way beyond our means. So graduates, I'd like to suggest that contrary to what you might see on TV or in the tabloids, there are just few things worth achieving that happen in an instant. And there's often great value in great struggle. I'm here to suggest that it's only by embracing rather than shrinking from challenges. It's only by setting and striving for our own ambitious bars that we become what we're truly meant to be. Think for a moment. Just think about those first 7 students at this school. They arrived here at a time when newly freed people had few opportunities beyond sharecropping, when oppressive black codes still limited their freedom and lynching and mob violence were facts of life. They had been raised in a society that viewed them not as potential students or professionals or even citizens, but as property, unfit for and undeserving of an education. See, but something inside of them rejected that notion. Somehow they were able to see beyond what they had been told. Somehow they held fast to their own vision of themselves as scholars, as future teachers, as human beings with something worth contributing. And it's that same defiant courage that same spirit of self-determination that has fueled the success of countless students in every generation since. Consider the example of Dr. Samuel Kuntz, class of 1952. He performed the first kidney transplant between people who weren't identical twins, and over the years his research has made countless other transplants possible. But believe it or not, back when he first applied to this school as a young man, he actually failed the entrance exam, I'm told. But he didn't give up his dream of an education. He didn't withdraw his application. He simply decided that his test score didn't reflect his true potential. And you know what he did? He appealed straight to the university president, who agreed and admitted him despite his scores. So just think about how many lives have been saved and how much medical progress has been made because Samuel Kuntz believed more in himself than in some number on a page. And let me tell you something, there are people like Dr. Kuntz everywhere. They are sitting among you here today. Consider the journey of Kiana Childress, who's graduating today with a degree in biology. I am told that Kiana grew up in a little town in a family, unfortunately, that struggled just to keep the lights on and the water running. And at the age of 16, she became homeless. In order to provide for herself, she found work as a nursing assistant. And living out of a car, I'm told. She'd go to school during the day. Then she'd work late nights, weekends at a job, sometimes up to 16 hours a day. Every day for Kiana was hard. Every day was exhausting. And then one day at work, when she was just about ready to throw in the towel, Kiana thought for a moment. And she thought not about her own struggles. She thought about those of her patients. She thought about how sick they were and how much pain they were in. And at that moment, she realized, as she put it, and this is a quote, "They needed me more than I needed to give up." Did you hear that? They needed me more than I needed to give up. And at that moment, I know Kiana found herself. She found her true calling in life to be a doctor. And see, it's not just her prestigious internships or her near-perfect GPA that will help her fulfill that dream. It's going to be that compassion that she has for others' suffering that comes from having suffered so much herself. It's her burning desire to rise above her circumstances, her unrelenting belief that she can succeed despite all evidence to the contrary. And all of that will not just make Kiana a good doctor, but it's going to make her an extraordinary doctor. And think for a moment about the improbable endeavor that was my husband's campaign for president. See, now he'd be the first to tell you that he wasn't the likeliest candidate for that office. He didn't start out with many connections or much money, no name recognition. And when he first began campaigning out in places like Iowa and New Hampshire, most folks whose hands he shook and homes he visited didn't know who he was, had no idea. But see, Barack Obama didn't get discouraged. He didn't listen to the pundits who said that someone like him could never get elected. Instead, he listened to his gut, which told him that this country was less cynical, less divided, less selfish than some may think. He listened to his heart, which told him that he had an obligation to serve and to give back to this country that had given him so much. And no matter how long those campaign days got, and they were long, and no matter how low his poll numbers dropped, that's what motivated him. That's what sustained him. That's what saw him through to the end. See, in graduates, the beauty is that ultimately, all of those ups and downs, all those long hours on that campaign, actually helped build him up that stamina that now serves him every single day as President of the United States of America. See, folks, that's the thing about striving in the face of adversity. Often it's the hardship and sacrifices that make you stronger. Often the harder you have to fight to achieve your goals, the more endurance you build up, not just physically and emotionally, but spiritually as well. And I know many of us here know from experience that the moments of greatest trial and tragedy that shake our souls, those moments don't have to shatter or weaken our faith. They strengthen and deepen it, right? See, because it's so easy to have faith when things are good, right? When everyone's healthy, you can pay the bills, life's going along according to plan. But the faith that comes easy won't always sustain you when times are hard. The faith you need then, that bone-deep kind of faith that gets you through your darkest hours, that kind of faith is only earned when it's tested. See, think about Dr. Martin Luther King. Think about Dr. King, who spoke at this commencement back in 1958. At that time, he had been arrested, put on trial for his work. His house had been bombed. His life had been threatened. But he came here on that spring day, half a century ago. After all he'd been through and all he'd seen, Dr. King told the graduating class, and I quote, "Now we stand on the border of the promised land." And he spoke of a day when all men can stand together, black and white, Jew and Gentile, Protestant and Catholic, and sing another song, "Free at last, free at last." See, Dr. King refused to let the world as it was dissuade him from his vision of the world as it should be. And not just in spite of what he'd endured, but because of what he'd endured, Dr. King still had faith. He still had, in the words of Scripture, the faith that is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now, I want to be clear that I'm in no way suggesting that hardship, injustice, and inequality are somehow acceptable or justifiable because they can make people stronger. And I'm certainly not suggesting that the only path to success requires overcoming obstacles thrust upon you, because plenty of folks who've been raised in privilege have gone on to change the world because they had discipline and drive and set high expectations for themselves. They used their resources to meet those expectations, and they pulled others along the way. So I expect nothing less from those of you who've been fortunate in your lives. My point is simply, graduates, that life is complicated. It's so complicated, and human beings are imperfect, and struggle and hardship will always be with us in some form or another. It just will. But that has never been the end of our story, either as individuals or as a nation. It has only been the beginning. For ours is a story of folks who traveled great distances to build a better life, folks who marched and fought and bled, folks who risked everything they had because they wanted something more for their children. It's the story of folks like your parents and your grandparents who may not have had the chance to go to college themselves, but you know they saved and they sacrificed so that you could go, so that you could have opportunities they never imagined for themselves. Look, graduates, they didn't do that all just so that you could have it easy. They didn't do all that just so that you could spend your lives breathlessly reaching for whatever bars other people set for you. They didn't do that. They did it so that you could set your own high bars. They did it so that you could discover for yourself that the things that matter in life are the bars that don't move. Families that love you, they don't move. Work that is meaningful, a community that embraces you, the chance to make a contribution that is lasting. Those are the bars that you can count on every day. And I think that one of my sheroes, Dr. Dorothy Height, the godmother of the civil rights movement, whose recent passing we mourn, she put it best. When discussing why she kept up the fight for civil and economic rights all throughout her life, she said simply, "This is my life's work. It's not a job." And that is what I wish for all of you graduates today, truly. I wish for you the kind of trials that help you discover your life's work and give you the strength and the faith to pursue it. I wish for you a life lived not in response to the doubts or fears or desires of others, but in pursuit of passions and hopes and dreams that are all your very own. And whenever you get discouraged, and you will, whenever you start to lose heart and you want to give up, and you will, I want you to think about all those who came before you. I want you to think about all those here. I want you to tell yourself that if Kiana Children can go from being homeless to graduating with the highest GPA, not just in the biology department, but in the entire School of Arts and Sciences, then surely I can overcome whatever adversity I might face in my own life. I want you to tell yourself if Dr. Samuel Kuntz could appeal directly to the university's president and insist that he deserved a place at this school, then surely you can see to it that your own gifts never, ever go to waste. And if those 7 students could have the audacity to take their place here 135 years ago, if they could insist on fulfilling their God-given potential and staking their claim on the promise of this great nation, then surely I can too, because you must, graduates. May their legacy be your inspiration. I wish you all nothing but the best. We need you to be strong and fearless and proud. Continue to make us proud. Godspeed and every blessing on the road ahead. We love you. Thank you so much.
Chancellor Davis, I would like to present to you a Citizen of the World for the Honorary Doctorate of Laws degree. I present to you Ms. Michelle Obama, First Lady of the United States of America. Ms. Obama, please come forward.
First Lady of our nation, it is upon the recommendation of our faculty and Chancellor Davis, and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of the University of Arkansas, that I, with great pleasure, confer upon you, Michelle Robinson Obama, the honorary degree, Doctors of Laws, with all the rights, privileges appertaining thereto. You are now a golden line.
Yeah.
I would ask you to be entertained by a Wind Symphony and Concert Band as the official party of the First Lady must depart. Give her another round of applause as we go.